Delivery drivers of Reddit. What's the wildest moment or most hilariously awkward thing you've walked in on while dropping something off? Story 1. I remember one Halloween I was doing deliveries. Nothing was new except it was a night full of candy and odd costumes. I had a pretty large pizza delivery to this apartment complex near a college campus. So, as you do when a delivery boy, I grabbed the drinks and bagged them up and then put the pizzas in the pizza bag. I arrived at the apartment complex and could see the people's decorations on the porch and stuff. I walked up to the door, knocked, and an absolute unit of a darker-skinned guy dressed as Freddy from Scooby-Doo opened the door. Dude had dreads, a little facial hair, had to be at least 6'5", and was built like a pencil. He greets me and then turns around and yells, "Ayo gang, our pizza is here." I cracked up laughing when everyone came running. The dude dressed as Shaggy had to be his twin brother, because once again an absolute monster tall, dark-skinned guy, 6'3", with dreads and built like a pencil. A short, light-skinned girl came out as Daphne. Her outfit was see-through. A Mexican girl came dressed as Scooby. Her outfit was also see-through. And lastly, a thicker white brunette came dressed as Velma. Again, also see-through and an extremely short red skirt. She hurried past the crew, turned around in front of the door, and said, "Oh no, Mr. Delivery Boy, I dropped my glasses." Yo, and she turned around and flipped up her little red skirt, and my goodness, dude. This girl had a very large toy in, and it was like flashing different colors. I heard the girl dressed as Scooby say "Roo-row." After that, our mystery-solving homie Fred came to her and said, "All right, that's enough with you. I'll deal with your cute A in the room." Keep in mind this all happened in about 2 to 3 minutes of me opening the door. He said to me, "Aight lil homie, here's your tip. You have a good rest the night." He let out a laugh, handed me $30 and a little bag of the greens, smacked Velma on the back, picked her up, and then everyone rushed to shut the door on me. Before we continue, do us a quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. I used to deliver off-site catering for a deli, mostly things like chicken parm trays and 6-foot heroes. Pretty standard stuff. It wasn't unusual for people to order food after funerals, so one day, I got sent on a delivery for what I assumed was just that. But this order? It was massive, like $600 worth of food. Way more than usual. I pull up to the house, expecting a somber scene, but instead it's packed with gorgeous people. A good number of them are lounging by the pool, topless, laughing, sunning themselves, having a full-blown party. I should mention, this wasn't some fancy mansion in the Hamptons or anything, just a regular middle-class home in Massapequa, New York. Everyone there looked to be under 35, and they were clearly having the time of their lives. For a second, I figured maybe I had the wrong place. But then I stepped into the living room and spotted the memorial photo easel with a big, "You'll be missed" sign. So yeah, it was definitely a funeral. Still the most bizarre funeral I've ever seen, but honestly, I kind of hope mine is like that. Either everyone was genuinely celebrating a life well lived, or the guy was a total dong, and they were partying because he was finally gone. Either way, 10/10 energy. Story 3. I delivered live orchids for a greenhouse as a part-time job. They had to be physically handed to the customers because I was not allowed to leave them outside at all. One place I went to was way out of the main roads, which is saying something because I live in an extremely rural area. My normal grocery trip is half an hour just to get to the closest store. Anyway, I find the address, and the driveway disappears into a forest, and it's a good half a mile of gravel twists before I see the house. It's dug into the side of a hill looking over a private lake. Like there's just a dark hallway going back into the dirt, no windows, no doors, no visible structure, just a concrete rectangular tunnel into darkness. I had called the customer beforehand because I learned the hard way that cold delivery means I'm driving back with flowers and wasting time and gas, so I just shouted, "Hello, delivery from Greenhouse," and stood there, kind of taking in the scenery. I shouted again, and this time got a response. The guy pokes his head out from a door that I swear was not there when I pulled up. About halfway down the tunnel, it was like he just popped out of the shadows and went, "Oh hey there. I didn't hear you pull up." I hold up the orchid and explain he has to sign for it, and he's like, Sure, and steps out of the darkness to reveal he is completely bare and covered in mud? Brown paint? I have no idea. Just swinging free and dripping gooey brown sludge as he walks out into the sunlight to take his delivery. Leaves a huge brown smudge on the invoice and says, "You want to come in for a beer?" Even if I didn't have to drive way back out of there. No way in hell was I going into the concrete tunnel of darkness with Nudie Mudman. Nope. Story 4. I did bicycle delivery for a sub-shop franchise in Seattle for nearly a decade and wish I could condense this story, but I can't. Context is key, and I have a lot I'm still trying to unpack on this one. Now, a certain store had picked up traction with 3 different red light zone, as we called them, in separate apartments and complexes. Almost always had a tattooed head mistress of 50+ accepting delivery, but occasionally a random younger girl clad in a towel would get their sandwich directly, always tipping very well, and it was not uncommon for a John to be already knocking at the apartment door asking for his girl. One of the girls ordered frequently between one of the red light zones and what I assumed was her home address a few blocks away. One day, one of the newly hired bikers comes back with a story of getting laid on his delivery run, and he quickly becomes known as T-Horny, a combo of his real name and antics. I was skeptical at first, but months later I ended up at her doorstep. She answered in a hoodie sweatsuit and asked how much it was. It was just one sub, $8 at the time, tax and delivery included, so I told her matter-of-factly, "It's $8. She asked me to step inside so she could grab her cash. Of course I did, and she closed the door behind me. I waited and waited. Over 5 minutes passed as she rummaged through her cluttered apartment and eventually disappeared into a bedroom. When she came back out, she was topless, holding a $10 bill. "How much was that again?" she asked casually. $8, I repeated. "Or I could give you a blowy," she offered, dead serious. $8, I replied, keeping my tone flat. She pulled down her pants, turning to expose her backside. "Are you sure you don't want to hit it?" "No," I said firmly. She waved the $10 bill in front of me, pouting. "Well, you're no fun." "I have a girlfriend," I said, snatching the bill from her hand, "and I'm tons of fun." I turned to the front door to make my exit, only to realize she had locked the deadbolt behind me. I don't think I'll ever experience dread in the same way, but I'm guessing I will never have a fantasy quite like that just the same. Story 5. I dropped off a package in a fairly nice driveway. The house was pristine, large, and well taken care of. For whatever reason, the yard was dimly lit, and the sun was going down. The house was somewhat bordered by a tree line that was pitch black in the gloom. My wife was in the driver's seat watching my back. I heard a stick crunch, and immediately my instincts went wild. I felt like I was being watched. My wife got the heebie-jeebies and called my name, and I threw the package on the porch and walked back to the car. I could barely make out a man sneaking, almost crouching, through the tree line a few feet away, trying to catch me by surprise and trying to be as quiet as possible. In an Amazon vest, with Amazon logos all over my car, with my flashers on, I was dropping off an Amazon package. I jumped in the car as he broke through the tree line, and I could see him in the rearview mirror, quietly standing in the driveway where I was. Had she not been there, I'm not sure what the man hoped to accomplish. Story 6. I knocked on the door. She told me to come in. When I stepped inside, she called me into her bedroom. The smell hit me immediately. The room was a mess, trash and clothes scattered everywhere. She looked to be in her early 40s, a bit rough around the edges. She said she was bedridden, even though she kept moving every limb, which sounded strange. Then she asked me to grab her a soda from her closet, which was just a few feet away. The lighting was dim, and I was wearing my prescription sunglasses, so I could barely see. The smell grew worse as I approached the closet. Inside, it was packed with brand new, sealed iPads, headphones, junk food, more electronics, around 6 cases of soda, and about 20 cases of adult diapers, stuffed to the brim. She tells me she's bedridden and that her boyfriend left on Monday. She doesn't know where he went or if he's coming back. It's already Friday. She's friendly enough, but I can tell she's a little off just from 20 seconds of talking. She asks me to grab her a pack of diapers along with the soda. No problem. Then she pleads with me to take out her garbage because it's been sitting there for weeks. I can tell. It definitely reeks. I'm thinking, whatever, maybe there's a good tip in it. Plus, this woman seems a bit unstable, but if she's telling the truth, at least I could help her out a little, right? She points me toward her side of the bed, the side farthest from the door and closet where I'd been standing. The smell is overwhelming. Just gather this little bit here and take it all out. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Thank you, thank you. I start moving the top layer, and the stench hits me like a wall. There's a mountain of dirty adult diapers piled up, Papers smeared with feces, clothes soaked in it, even the carpet is stained. It's like a scene from Bob Saget in Dumb and Dumberer. There's poop absolutely everywhere. I've worked at a kennel for years, and this is on a whole other level. I've cleaned up some seriously disgusting stuff before, rank beyond anything you can imagine. Dogs have no shame, after all. But I decided to go for it, thinking maybe the big tip's worth it. I push through 2 or 3 diapers when one rips open, spilling even more crap everywhere. Now I just want to get the hell out of there. I'm starting to feel sick, my heart's racing, I'm dizzy. The smell. God, the smell. I look down. 2 or 3 are done, and about 45 left. Holy crap. I'm not going to make it. I'm about to puke. Then I see something that's not a diaper. What the hell is that? She's not too old to be on periods, right? I'm done. I drop everything and literally jump back, asking to use her bathroom to wash up. Without waiting for a response, I rush in. The place looks abandoned, rusty toilet, piles of old garbage and magazines everywhere, more dirty diapers scattered around. I nope out completely and bolt for my car. Once inside, I practically bathe in hand sanitizer and peel out like I'm being chased by a horror movie killer. Later, I found out she tipped me $2 on a credit card. Story 7. I was delivering for Pizza Hut and got an early delivery call. I'm next up. It's my next-door neighbors. Awesome. They're cool people. So, I bag it up and head out the door. A short drive later, I'm standing outside their house knocking, with the main door open but the screen door closed. Normally, you don't just let yourself in. So, I knock a little longer before I just start calling their names out and letting myself in. I make it about 8 steps in before I realize that the TV noise I'm hearing is not normal TV noise. It's hardcore corn. My feet were on autopilot, however, and the realization didn't hit me until I was fully 2 rooms into their house. I made it about 3 feet into their family room and saw them buck bare and him full-on banging his little wife on the couch. They were both so involved that they didn't even notice me. So, I backed out slowly to the front door, and this time I hit the door like it owed me money. She darts across the doorway, looking fantastically fit for her age, and comes back to the front door in a robe and a huge smile. I got a like $22 tip because she paid with a 50, but the real treasure was the memory of her memories. I never could look at her the same way after that. Story 8. This one's an easy pick. It's about my best friend from school. Back when he used to do a paper round, he tried to deliver a newspaper to a house, only to find the letterbox already stuffed with old papers. He pushed the bundle through, and as he did, a swarm of flies burst out. The smell that followed was so rancid it made him gag. Curious, and maybe a little nosy, he peeked through the letterbox after sliding the paper in. More flies came rushing out, and inside, he could see the air was thick with them, just swarming. Disturbed, he called his mom for advice, and after hearing what he described, she told him to call the police. It sounded like someone might have died inside. The police arrived and tried everything, knocking, ringing the doorbell, shouting, even peering through the windows, but got no response. Eventually, they decided to force entry for a welfare check. They asked my friend to step back onto the path, then broke down the door. According to him, as soon as the door opened, a cloud of flies just poured out. The officers put on masks before entering, and less than a minute later, they stumbled back out gagging. Inside, they found an elderly woman who had passed away and was, in their words, infested with maggots. She'd been dead for over a month, and none of her family had checked in on her. I actually heard about the same incident again about a year later, from a police perspective. Turns out my uncle's brother was the officer in charge that day. My friend never did a paper round again after that. Story 9. Once during, I had a job delivering pizza for a popular restaurant. It wasn't very good pay, so I had to rely mostly on tips. At one particular delivery stop, an older woman answered the door, intoxicated, and asked how much the pizza was. I told her the amount owed, and she asked if she could work some of the money off and winked at me. I politely declined and repeated the total amount, but she insisted I come in and wait while she grabbed her purse. So, I walked in and waited by the door while she went into the back part of the house to grab the money. After about 5 minutes go by and she's not back yet, I holler out for her, asking if everything is okay. She replies and asks if I can come back and help her find her purse. Reluctantly, I set the pizza down and made my way back into the house. I turn the corner, and there in her room, the woman is lying on her bed in just her inners. Before I can say anything, she says to come in and do whatever I want to her. I quickly turned around and left the house, leaving the pizzas behind. I ended up having to pay for the pizza myself because the manager didn't believe my story. I quit 2 weeks later. Story 10. The craziest was when I delivered to a hotel room, and before I could knock on the door, a giant cop opened it with his finger over his mouth, telling me to be quiet. I saw about 8 cops in the hotel room, half circled around a television screen. He signed for the food, and I started making my way back down the hallway towards the elevator. Halfway down the hallway, I heard a door slam and the distinct sounds of heavy feet running in my direction. I turned around and saw a woman, dressed only in panties, sprinting in my direction as all the officers barreled out of the room after her. One yelled, "Stop, the place is surrounded." There was nowhere for me to go besides press my body up against one of the doors to give her clearance, so I didn't get laid out. She was big and built, but was faster than humanly possible. She ran down the hallway, which opened up in the center so that you could overlook the lobby of the hotel and around the corner. The image of her bare jugs swinging in circles as she sprinted down the hallway will be forever burned in my brain. As I left the hotel, still in shock of what I saw, the person working the front desk told me to have a nice day. It was as if I was the only person who witnessed this. As I drove away, I saw police cars with their lights on flying up and down the road, still searching for her. Sometimes I wonder whatever happened to that bare woman. Story 11. So, I dropped this guy off his food, and he called me by my name. I'm like, whoa, okay. He goes, yeah, I saw it online. I'm like, cool. So, I hit him back with his name, just for fun. No reason really. We end up chatting about random stuff, shows, games, whatever. Dude was actually chill. Then, as I'm about to leave, he asks me for my last name. It slips out of my mouth before I even think about it. The next day, he added me on Facebook, saying we should hang out sometime. We're the same age, seem to have similar interests, so I'm like, alright, why not? I can't have too many friends. We end up going to Applebee's. It turns out he's got a 4-year-old daughter, and his wife recently passed away. He actually watched her pass, but he's a firefighter/paramedic, so he says it didn't hit him the same way it might hit most people. It was kinda weird. Low-key, I'm in my head like, did this man off his wife? We talk about a whole bunch of nothing and head out. I tell my girlfriend about it, and she's like, oh, he's totally gay. I'm like, I don't think so, he's got a kid and was married. But she was convinced. Don't hear from him for a while, then out of nowhere, he starts hitting me up again, wanting to hang out. I'm like, nah. Just decided he's not really worth my time. Every now and then, I still get a come hang out text. After a few months, it shifts into weird stuff like, it won't take long. I'm like, what won't take long? And he's just like, nothing. Just come hang out. Just want to talk. I'm thinking, we're literally talking right now. And this little back and forth goes on for months. Then it takes a turn into extra weird. He hits me with the same, come hang out, it won't take long line. I ask, what won't take long? And he goes, you know. I'm like, nah, I really don't. Then one day, he sends me an emoji of 2 dudes holding hands. And I'm like, oh, okay, he is gay. I tell him, hey, I'm gonna take this as a compliment, but I'm into girls. And he just replies with triple dollar signs and a question mark. At that point, I was done. Blocked him after it kept getting weirder. I straight up refused to deliver to his place for the rest of the time I worked there. Dude was way bigger than me too. I'm not gonna lie, he could have taken my cheeks against my will if he tried to. So yeah, hard pass. Story 12. Back in my late teens, I worked as a pizza delivery driver for Papa John's. One afternoon, I had a delivery to one of the local adult shops in town. I walked in, went up to the front counter, and told the woman working that I had a pizza for someone named John. She glanced up and said, oh, he's in the theater. I paused, confused, and told her I didn't know where that was. She smiled knowingly and said, it's in the back, behind the blue door. Go ahead, don't worry, there are only a few people back there. You'll be fine. Her reassurance didn't help much, but I made my way to the door and stepped inside. The room was dark, lit only by a projector playing a corno on the wall. Scattered around were mismatched pieces of furniture, couches, folding chairs, and a table. Right in the middle of the room, a woman was over a chair, vigorously getting banged by a man, while another guy, presumably her husband, sat nearby watching quietly. He noticed me come in, held a finger to his lips to shush me, and motioned me over. I awkwardly tiptoed through the scene, placed the pizza on the table as instructed, and saw a $20 bill waiting for me. Just as I turned to leave, the guy doing the plowing casually reached over, flipped open the pizza box, grabbed a slice, and took a bite, never missing a beat. Hands down, the weirdest delivery I ever made. Story 13. I deliver for Amazon, and some homes set up their garage door to be connected to Amazon. I show up to their house, and my work phone allows me to open their garage door, put the package inside, and then shut the garage door. People who set this up don't understand that you have now made your garage a potential public space. I was hitting the open garage door button on my phone, and it was kind of budging, but the door wouldn't fully move. I thought to myself maybe it was stuck. After the fourth try, it opens, and I see this older man behind a car, shirtless, trying to shut his garage door and wondering why it's opening. I thought this dude was just comfortable in his house, so I called out to him, saying it's me, and to let the garage door fully open. He laughs and forgot Amazon can open his garage door. He turns the corner around his car, and he is not wearing anything. The confidence of this old-timer to just walk straight up to me. I got the smallest glimpse before I realized what was happening, and I just turned around and dropped the package on his trunk. I just noped out of there. Nope. Story 14. Used to work for a small courier service, mostly meds and legal docs. One night, I'm dropping off an envelope at this guy's apartment. The door's cracked open, and the lights are red inside. Not dim red, like horror movie red. I knock and say, "Delivery for James." And from inside I hear, "Come in. It's feeding time." Dead serious. I noped out so hard I nearly left skid marks in the hallway. I called dispatch and made them mark it undeliverable. The next day the guy calls and goes, "Sorry about the Dracula vibe. I was setting up for my Tarantula's TikTok live stream." I don't even know what part disturbs me more. The fact that he said it so casually, or that the tarantula apparently had fans. Story 15. Back when I was 13, I had a paper route. In the UK, 99.99% of houses have a letter flap on the front door, and we would post the newspapers through the door. One day I had to cover another kid's route, and when I went to post the paper through one door, it just wouldn't go through. Normally I'd just leave it hanging out of the door, but it wouldn't even go in enough to stay there, and I thought I'd get in trouble if I left it outside the door. I opened the flap to see what was blocking it. It was a dong. The guy liked to put his dong in the letter flap when he knew the 13-year-old paperboy was coming. I never did that route again, and even quit altogether a few weeks later. I did speak to the kid that usually did that route, and he said that's normal, but the guy would regularly give him tips, so he was okay with it. I really wish I'd reported it at the time, but I was a kid and was scared I'd lose my job or get in trouble some other way. Story 16. I was a delivery driver for Best Buy and was delivering a fridge to a very nice house. The owner said she wouldn't be there, but her daughter would be. Her daughter was 19. So, we get to the house for the delivery, and two girls answer the door in bikinis. The community has a private lake. They are giggling and dancing around. It didn't take long to realize they were both drunk. They also stated they had been day drinking. We got the old fridge out and had the new one almost in place when I turned around to talk to the girl. I let her know the work was done and warranty stuff and blah blah blah. She said okay, and then her friend pulled up her bikini top. Mind you, the friend pulled up the other girl's bikini top. I looked respectfully and then turned away. I grabbed the paperwork, turned around to have her sign it, and her top was still up and they were both giggling again. She had some very nice chesticles. She signed the paperwork and we left. Story 17. One Halloween, I took an order to this guy's house. He opened the door and handed me a phone and said, "Just go with it." His girlfriend was going to call, and he was going to prank her by pretending to be dead or something. It all happened really fast. I didn't know what to think. So my brain went, she's probably used to it. So, I took the phone and talked to her. I said something like, "Hi, is this someone who knows this guy? I'm a delivery guy. I just got here, and the guys are on the floor. Have you ever read anything about the sounds parents make when they find out their kids have passed?" She made a noise like that. Instant regret. She freaked out. Started telling me to do CPR and check his pulse. Keep him alive till I get there. That kind of stuff. She said she was calling 911. The dude was making hand gestures at me, so I said, "You might want to wait on that until you get here." So she gets home. The dude's like, "Gotcha. Ha ha ha." The woman is standing there with puffy eyes and a wet face. I'm finally able to speak and say something like, I am so sorry. I thought maybe it was a thing you guy did. She said I was fine. She knew it was all him. The guy let me out and insisted on handing me a tallboy Bud Light as a thank you for my trouble. I never actually drank it, mostly because, well, Bud Light isn't my thing, and also, I didn't really feel like I deserved a reward for that. Even thinking of the sound she made then, like over 10 years ago now, still makes my breath catch. I still can't believe I did that. Story 18. I worked for a small delivery service years ago in my early 20s. It was mostly legal documents between firms, but we had some bigger clients too, namely big clothing retailers. This is important for later. Late one afternoon, I was asked to drop off a random box on my way home. I was in a rougher part of town, the warehouse district. The sun was going to set soon, and it also wasn't my usual area. I first pushed back a bit, hesitant to deliver because of the circumstances, but eventually gave in and did it. Made it to the drop-off just before sunset in a dark warehouse lot. The only lights in this parking area were some dim lights over most of the doors. Some lights were out, barely lighting the numbers on the doors that actually had numbers. One random door had a bouncer wearing all black and a wire in his ear. Based on the package address, I deduced that was the delivery drop-off location. I parked a good distance away just in case and shouted at the guy from afar. I think I have a package for you." He responded, "Who do you work for?" So I tell him. He goes, "1 minute, I'll be right back." Well, by the time he got back, the sun had actually set, and at this point, I was sweating bullets. He comes back out with another bouncer dude and says, "Grab your package and come in. The boss is waiting for you." It's worth noting at this point that the service I work for requires a signature from the customer that placed the order due to legal reasons, so I actually need the boss's signature for protocol reasons. The compliance part of my brain is like, okay, get in, get the signature, and get the hell out. Just in case, pretend you didn't see anything. So I carefully get the package, walk up to the door, and get ready to go in. The main bouncer says, "We will need to escort you for safety reasons." I'm practically shaking at this point with fear, but I'm already committed. The first step in is a long, dark hallway, and I hear very loud music in the back area. Finally, we go inside under this thick black curtain to the brightest lit warehouse I've ever witnessed, with Right Said Fred's "I'm Too Sexy" playing over some loudspeakers. Inside, I see the most gorgeous women I've ever seen in real life walking around in lingerie, getting their picture taken. I stop for a moment to take it all in, all while the bouncers laugh at me at how dumbfounded I probably look. I eventually make it to the boss, after passing multiple sets, drop the package off, and get the signature. I had the widest grin on my face the whole time that I couldn't hide. The part of my brain saying you didn't see anything took a back seat as I took it all in. The boss's assistant opens the package to check the inventory and finds out it was more lingerie-looking clothes. The assistant just waves her hands at me to shoo me away, and I casually walk back out with the bouncers. The head guy on the way out was like, "It's quite the sight to see, huh? No one will ever believe you if you tell them." I was so dumbfounded when I got back to the car, confirmed the package was dropped, and told dispatch, "If you ever need anything dropped off here again, I want to be the first to know." I never got to go back after that, but I'll never forget that magical moment. Story 19. I was only new, so I didn't really know the area, but that didn't exist on Google Maps. I rang the guy in my car, and he was fuming I didn't know where it was because he ordered there every week and told me he was a well-known regular. I explained to him that I'm new, and he was so stubborn and said to put him onto the restaurant, so I brought the order back in and told the receptionist lady. She had no idea who he was, and she was the only girl in there who spoke English. Next, he requested the manager, and my boss there spoke English, but this guy had a thick Irish traveler accent, and he tried to speak to him. He also had no idea who he was, but my boss reckoned the last driver did. So my boss dials the other guy, who tells us it's the caravan site building past the football pitch. So, I go driving around the football pitch looking for a caravan site, and I can't find one anywhere, and I ring the other driver again, and he says no, go into the site building, which he meant building site. I go into the building site, and I still can't find it, so I just ring the guy and tell him I'm at a building site with his order, and if he doesn't tell me where he is now, he won't get his food. He hangs up and just shouts, "Hold on," from above me. With feet at my eye level, he jumps out of a caravan suspended from a crane with the number 12 on his door. Now I knew where it was for the next 3 years. Story 20. A guy I delivered to clearly had some kind of mental disability. But he answered the door with a stiffy in his pants, and the smell was horrendous. That's when I realized the sweatpants he was wearing were literally covered in his baby gravy, all crusty and circular stains. My guess was he didn't really understand the social norms and privacy for moments like that. Either that or he panicked and put on the wrong pair of sweatpants, or he just didn't care, just doing it straight into the crotch of the pants. Safe to say I signed the parcel on his behalf. Story 21. I used to go door to door for an old job, and I had a gorgeous older woman answer the door in a bathrobe once. I was about 22, she was maybe 45. She flirted and chatted with me, and if I hadn't been supervised, it was my second day on the job, and I was being shadowed by a supervisor. I would have accepted her invitation inside. Yes, she invited us both in, and her very pretty friend drove up shortly after we started walking away, so I can only imagine what shenanigans she regularly got up to. My supervisor politely declined her offers of wine, beer, cold water, and a break from the outdoors, and as we walked away, he bemoaned being freshly married and having to ruin that experience for me. For himself, too, I got the impression he and his wife were former swingers and had settled down after the wedding. Story 22. I used to be a pizza guy in my younger years. The weirdest thing that I ever encountered was delivering some pizzas to an older, larger lady who used a walking stick. She had her grandson over for dinner. She opened the door, I read out the order, she gave me some winks, paid, and then said, "You're getting me as hot as these pizzas. Do you want to come in?" I stuttered a no, and her grandson, around 12 years old, looking horrified, quietly said, "Holy heck, Grandma." Story 23. I'm not a delivery driver in any paying capacity, but my neighborhood is really close-knit, so we act as delivery drivers for each other whenever it's needed. One of the guys in my neighborhood, who lives a couple of blocks over, is an MMA fighter semi-professionally and an all-around nice guy. He has 3 daughters with his ex-wife in a shared custody arrangement and loves them to pieces. He asked me to grab the takeout order he'd gotten for the girls and him for dinner on my way home. My practice is literally a block away from the restaurant, so it wasn't a huge deal. I texted him when I got there, and he told me to just come on in. When I walked into the foyer, I beheld one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I should give you a description of him, so you get an idea of what he looks like. He's 6'3", somewhere around 245 to 250 pounds, a muscular/jacked guy with a beard. In the living room, he and his daughters are having a tea party after playing dress-up. The girls had done his makeup, braided his beard, and he was dressed in a Glinda the Good Witch type dress. Yes, it was pink, and yes, it was in his size. It was so unexpected that it was hilarious to me, and I burst out laughing. He didn't take offense because he realized how funny it looked to walk in on that. It was just so incongruous to what I expected that it bordered on the absurd to me in the moment. There's a sweet postscript for this moment. We had a neighborhood barbecue the next Thursday night, and over a few beers, we got talking about it. He offhandedly mentioned that I should see his Ariel from the Little Mermaid costume. It turns out that he owns matching, or as close as possible, dresses/costumes to his daughter's dress-up clothes. I've seen the whole closet he has dedicated to it. That's one of the most wholesome things I've ever encountered in hindsight. Story 24. I delivered pizzas while I was in college. On my very first night working the job, I got a delivery to a place pretty close to the pizza shop, walking distance, and was really trying to work out why. I knocked on the door with the pizza, and a completely bare man answered. He couldn't cover himself up fast enough, and was extremely embarrassed. Turns out the woman I worked alongside was his wife, and the only delivery driver up till this point. I actually ended up as pretty good friends with both of them. We still catch up regularly. Anytime pizza is planned/mentioned at all, I make the better whip your dong out, mate joke. Story 25. I used to work supermarket home delivery in the UK. I had my regulars, whom I used to deliver to every weekend on my shifts, including a lovely old man who we'll call John. John lived in an upmarket retirement apartment assisted living facility in a small leafy village in the countryside. He was probably in his mid-90s and would always leave a note on the order to knock on his door and then come in to put the shopping in the kitchen for him. When I arrived, he'd just shout, "Come in," and I'd open the front door. Usually, he'd be sitting upright in his wheelchair in the living room or lying in his bed reading a book. One day, I went along to deliver John's food shop as normal, buzzing myself in on the intercom at the front doors and wheeling my sack barrow with the crates of shopping around the corridors till I got to John's apartment at the end of the corridor on the top floor. I noticed when I parked the sack barrow outside the front door that the door wasn't closed like normal. It was ajar. I knocked anyways and heard John say his usual, "Come in." So I proceeded to pick up the first 3 or 4 bags of shopping and opened the front door. It's important to note here that John's bathroom was immediately on the left side as you came into his small retirement apartment. As soon as I got through the front door, I saw to the left that the bathroom door was fully open, with John sitting in his wheelchair, bare as the day he was born, facing the doorway. His assisted living carer was there to give him his daily shower, I guess, and was midway through scrubbing his balding head as I walked through. Everything was out on show. I was quite shocked, not expecting to see a fully bare bloke in his 90s at 8 in the morning, but out of British politeness I just said, "Oh, morning, John. Still want the shopping left in the kitchen?" And he said, "Yes, please, mate." So I continued as normal, trying not to look across into the bathroom every time I had to go back to the sack barrow to collect more shopping bags. At the end of the delivery, I asked John if it was all right if I signed for the delivery on his behalf, as I could see he was a bit preoccupied with his shower. It was never mentioned again on the subsequent deliveries I took to John until I eventually quit the job a year or so later. Story 26. Not exactly something I walked in on, but definitely the funniest thing I'd seen at that job. I knock on this guy's door, he answers, and I scan the parcel. I hadn't looked at the name on it yet, but when it went through, the device showed it was addressed to Big Dong Dave. I couldn't hold in my laughter. I showed the guy and said, "That's a unique name." And he just burst out laughing, turned red as a tomato. Then he explained that his mate gets things delivered to his place because he works abroad a lot, and apparently, he puts a ridiculous name on every single delivery. Story 27. I once delivered plumbing supplies for a pretty big national company in the UK. I knocked on the door and was greeted by a lady, probably mid-30s, but she looked a lot older, rough paper round, I think. She answered the door with nothing but a bathrobe on. I passed the parcels to her, she put them down just inside the door, and every time she bent down, she flashed me her jugs. I tried not to look, but it was kind of hard not to. She then says, "Ooh, like what you see," with a huge smirk on her face. "No, thank you. Please sign for your parcels, and I'll be on my way," I said. I got home, and my girlfriend, now wife, said to me, "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I still don't think I have recovered 8 years on. Story 28. I work as a postal carrier, and back around 2013 to 2014, Amazon rolled out their Amazon Sunday delivery service through USPS. At the time, Sunday delivery wasn't common like it is now, so people were constantly doing double take or stopping us to ask what the hell we were doing out on a Sunday. Some even called the cops, thinking someone had stolen one of our signature LLVs, those little white mail trucks. Anyway, I was walking a package up to the door of a secluded, upper-class home when I heard a woman call out a guy's name from the garage. A man casually walked out, fully undressed, saw me and screamed. Then she screamed, and I screamed. Someone who I assumed was her husband bolted from somewhere and saw me. Yelling who the hell I was, while I was yelling, "I'm a letter carrier." I was stuck there for at least 15 minutes trying to show them my credentials, the fact that I'm in a mail truck, and had a package addressed to him. To this day, I can't get the image of those chests out of my head. Story 29. Appliance installer here. I was delivering a dishwasher, and I called the customer before heading there. The person I called was a man, the husband, and he informed me that he is at work, but his wife will be at the house for the install. I arrive at the house and ring the doorbell, no answer. I ring it a few mores, and I start knocking on the door. Eventually, the wife answers the door. Completely messy hair, sweaty, and you can tell she found the nearest dress and slipped it on with nothing underneath. As I am talking to her, another man wearing a tank and shorts is walking down the stairs, and the first thing he says to her is, "So how was your trip to Colorado?" She starts laughing and proceeds to introduce me to her brother. Then he walks out through the garage and disappears. Safe to say they looked nothing alike. For example, she was a blonde, and he had black hair. She was probably having an affair while her husband was at work. Story 30. Once, I had to deliver to this sketchy apartment complex. The main entrance had no lock, just an empty hole where a lock should have been. So, I let myself in and made my way to the unit since it was a hand-it-to-me order. I knocked a few times, but the TV inside was blasting so loud I could hear cartoons playing clear as day. When the door finally cracked open, the guy barely opened it, just enough to stick his head out, and snapped, "What do you want?" I just held up the food and said, "Delivery for," before he snatched the bag from my hand and slammed the door shut. Over the loud TV, I heard him yell, "Who the freak ordered DoorDash? Guess some kid must have gotten hold of the phone or something." Story 31. I wasn't a delivery driver, but I was going door to door taking orders for GS cookies. I think I was 12 or so and very innocent. At one house, a rather sweaty girl wearing only a t-shirt that came down to her knees opened the door. I saw a shirtless boy behind her. I asked if her parents were home, and she said no. We really weren't supposed to try and sell cookies to anyone but adults, so I said I'd come back when her parents were home. She freaked, said, "No," grabbed the form, ordered a bunch of boxes, barely looking at the form, then closed the door. When it was time for delivery, I went back. Her mom said, "I didn't order cookies," and when I said no, there was a girl here who ordered, called her daughter, who started to say she didn't order anything, saw me, and she looked absolutely horrified. She nervously told her mom something like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you I did that a while ago. I was going to pay for it myself," rummaged in her purse, shoved some bills at me, took the boxes, whispered softly, "Thank you," and shut the door. It was a couple years later when it hit me. I'd interrupted two excited teens who bought cookies to buy my silence. Story 32. Back in undergrad, I delivered for Jimmy John's. One time, I had a delivery to a La Quinta, and the room was tucked away in a secluded back corner of the hotel. When I knocked, I noticed the locking bar was flipped shut, so I had to hold the door handle while knocking. I heard two voices from the far end of the room saying, "Come in." I cracked the door open and announced their sandwiches, spotting them in bed with the covers pulled up to their chins. They told me to come inside, and right away I felt something was a little off. I hesitated, and they said I'd better come in if I wanted to get paid. Reluctantly, I stepped inside. They got out of bed bare and started searching for their money in a playful, teasing way. After a few minutes of that, they finally paid me and let me leave. Later, when I was bored at work, I stumbled across a Craigslist ad offering their services. Also delivered to an exotic dancer before, which wasn't totally uncommon on its own, but once I delivered to her mid-performance, it was incorporated into the routine. Story 33. One night around 10:30 p.m., I had a delivery for a girl who looked about 14 or 16. She asked me not to ring the doorbell or knock, a pretty common request. When I arrived, the place was a nice, spacious home. As I approached the main door, which was made of decorative glass that offered a blurry glimpse inside, I spotted the girl kneeling just inside. She had her arms wrapped around two dogs, gently holding their snouts closed to keep them from barking. I set the food down and was just about to get back in my car when I heard a sudden ruckus. The dogs had bolted outside, barking loudly, while the girl chased after them, quietly yelling as she tried to herd them back inside. I started backing out of the driveway, having to pause a few times whenever one of the dogs darted around my car, but eventually I made it out. As I drove away, she was still outside, chasing after the chaos. I've always wondered if she got in trouble with her parents, or if they just slept right through it. Story 34. One of my favorite funny moments happened during a delivery to a nursing home around 7:30 p.m. I had to be let in, and in the lobby, there were two ladies hanging out on electric scooters and wheelchairs. One of them let me in but didn't want me wandering the halls alone. She actually knew the person I was delivering to. So, she offered to lead me up to the room. What caught me off guard was how fast she zipped around on her scooter. I was practically jogging to keep up as she took sharp corners and zipped through the halls like she was racing in NASCAR. On the way up, she mentioned she appreciated the distraction because it was so quiet. I asked, "Oh, is this a busy time? Like, do families come for dinner often on a Friday evening?" She just burst out laughing and said, "Dinner? It's after 7. Half this place is already asleep." Story 35. Delivery driver here. Sometimes last year I was delivering pizza to a Halloween party. I wasn't expecting a party in the beginning of the afternoon, but whatever. The guy opening was like 6'5", 350 pounds, hairy as heck, and in a sexy maid outfit. Of course, all his friends, and he himself, though he tried not to, were laughing their bum off. I was somehow able to keep it professional, and when he closed the door, I started laughing too. Another time I had a delivery to an apartment with an intercom at the entrance. So I use it to call the client, get no answer, try again just in case, get an answer, and the guy opens the door. Alright, he was slow, but whatever. I take the elevator, get to his door, and hear a girl moaning obnoxiously. I think maybe it's from another room, so I knock on the door, no answer. I knock again, still no answer, so I call him on his phone. The moaning stops, he answers the phone and then the door. The guy shows up with only sweatpants and his erect flagpole. Delivery goes fine afterwards, but why would you get back to it if you know the delivery guy is coming? Story 36. 2. People tend to send flowers to their significant other when they've truly screwed up. Case in point. One day, I delivered flowers to a house. I knock on the door, and after a few minutes, a woman opens the door to reveal a face that was just absolutely freaking mangled. She looked like she'd been through 12 rounds of boxing, and every punch thrown connected with her face. When she saw the flowers, her only question was "Who are they from?" I replied, "I don't know, ma'am. I just deliver the flowers." She reluctantly took them and quickly shut the door. I didn't work at the flower shop much longer after. Story 37. I did HVAC maintenance at a university that included the student family dorms. We were given passkeys if the tenants were not home. We had a no cooling call in one of the apartments. We knocked, waited, and knocked again. No answer, so we let ourselves in. We announced maintenance, and a man walked around the corner wearing only a towel. He was sporting a pretty good pup tent, and we told him we could come back. He said to give him a few minutes, and then his wife walked around the corner in a bathrobe. His wife was a woman that I went to high school with. I said hi to her, and she recognized me. She was really embarrassed, but said we could come in and check out the AC unit. We fixed the unit and left. 50 years later, I saw her at our 50-year reunion. She laughed and brought up that incident that we had so long ago. Story 38. Your score, 4 out of 10. Around 2008, I did insurance somewhat door-to-door. They had a route pre-planned for me. I went to this house and pulled up to find a dude passed out in the truck with beer cans all around him. I left. 2 weeks later, this address pops up on my schedule, and I go back. He's not in the truck, so I go to the door. I knock. There's a bunch of yelling inside, and this dude opens the door and is wearing yellow rubber gloves. There is blood all over the floor. His wife is sitting in a wheelchair behind him, and another woman is there telling the woman in the chair it will be all right. He says, "Now isn't the best time," and I told him, "We will reschedule." Story 39. Your score, 4 out of 10. I was dropping a delivery off at the foot of the door and about to take a picture of the delivery when I heard the old lady on the other side yelling, "Get away from there, don't." I was just expecting some dogs or something that she was talking to, the way it sounded. Lo and behold, as my head is down and my phone is out taking the picture of the delivery, the door opens and someone's at the front of the door just staring at me with the phone held out. I took a quick note and did not take that picture. I'm pretty sure the person had special needs, but I don't know if they were male or female and may have been a minor. I just know they had long hair and that I saw chesticles before I turned around and took off to the vehicle. Story 40. I delivered medicine for a pharmacy in college. Most of the people were elderly and didn't leave the house much, so they would try to keep me at their house talking as long as they could. I saw most of them once a month, some once a week. There was one woman that would find whatever excuse she could to have me deliver something each day. Maybe Band-Aids one day, hand lotion the next, etc. She would always try to keep me there as long as possible. One day when I was there, she said she had stomach surgery and asked if I wanted to see. Before I could say a no, she lifted her dress with a big smile and no inners. I didn't even humor her and left immediately and told my boss. He called her up and chewed her out over the phone and said we would never be delivering to her again. Story 41. I was a pizza delivery driver back when I was 18. I had a delivery early one evening to a large house on a golf course estate. I rang the doorbell, and a few seconds later a tall, beautiful lady answered the door in nothing but heels. Turns out she was an exotic dancer at a guy's house who was clearly having a party with his mates. Now, this would be a dream for most boys my age, but unfortunately for me, women do not float my boat. Still funny to remember back on. Story 42. I once hauled a 300-pound rug through a cramped elevator shaft and then up and down stairs, only for the customer to refuse the delivery because she claimed there was a hole in it. The hole was invisible. I never saw a thing. As we were unrolling the rug, she suddenly pointed it out and told me to throw it away. No way was I about to do that. She called the front office and declared the rug was mine now. Then, she got on the phone and arranged for a replacement rug to be sent, free of charge. Still, I never saw any hole. I dragged the rug back down to the basement and told my boss what happened. He asked if I wanted to keep it, and I said, sure. We went to check the crate it came in, and there was a nearly invisible slit in the top of the crate, right under a crossmember. When I matched it up with the rug, the damage lined up perfectly. Apparently, someone punctured both the crate and the rug while transferring it between trucks, and probably didn't even notice. I still have that rug and use it. Back in 2009, it was worth somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Now it just keeps my garage cozy in winter. The hole has only gotten bigger, but the price tag? That stays the same. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.